All right, we are live. Problem occurred on X, Twitter. Okay, yeah, we don't care about that. That's fine. Go live. That's fine. All right, it looks like we're rolling live. I'm getting some interesting premium account is required for. Okay, that's fine. Remove that destination from the stream. That's fine. Save changes. That's fine. And we're still rolling. We're still going live. I see the clock ticking. Okay. Happy Friday, everyone. Sue. Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, welcome to another installment of Get a Klu in 52 for the speaker edition with Sue Mathieson, my co-author. And I just got to let everybody know Sue's here. We can see her, but we can't hear her. So sometimes I see the lips moving, no audio is coming through. I don't know if that's just on my end or if it's streaming out there, but I know that Sue can hear me, and I'm sure that you can too if you're watching live or a recording of this. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes open for any comments Sue wants to add via typing. And meanwhile, you'll see her troubleshooting to try to get audio rolling. But otherwise, be ready for me to carry the whole show today with Sue always supporting me here. Foreground, background, whatever it is. Whatever Sue has always have your support. So here we go. Let's get into this. What we're doing with these books, Get a Klu in 52, I happen to have a couple of them handy right here. This is the original Volume 1. Sue's dropping off and coming back on. Volume 1, and what you can see is these books all have 5 categories. So the 52 tips are spread out across 5 categories. So in Volume 1, the categories were, not in this order, communication, accountability, marketing, networking, and sales. We put 2 extra tips in the marketing section to have the full 52. Then in year 2, we got the entrepreneur edition right here. And this is with my co-author and good friend and client. And we do a lot of stuff together. We golf. Vipul Dayal. So these tips are all about being an entrepreneur. And the 5 categories for this book were personal branding, business acumen, business ownership, leadership, and influence, and then work-life balance. And so we read all of these tips in 2022. Then last year in 2023, I came out with the coaching edition. I do consider myself a world-class coach. I'm humble in a lot of other areas of my life, but not when it comes to coaching. I'm world-class. And I've been around the world and proven and created methodologies and trained other people and so forth. So I took everything that I know or anything that I'd want to teach somebody else about how to coach the way I coach, and I put them into 5 categories here in Get a Klu in 52 for coaches. So the 5 categories here were self-promotion, engagement, motivation, accountability, and then practice building. And some of these tips get repurposed, right? Some of these tips, they show up in more than one volume. Sometimes an entire section will show up in more than one volume, and that's true. Last year, we wrote this practice building section at the end. That had the 12 tips in it about the accountabilities that any practice, any business needs to consider when growing. If the business isn't paying or if the business isn't growing, then there's 12 accountabilities that we can check in on right away to do a quick diagnostic and shore things up. So how does that relate to us? Well, in the Get a Klu in 52 speaker edition, we took those 12 tips from practice building and we put them in here too, because you may want to build a practice as a speaker, or you may want to use speaking to advance your career, but we felt that it was healthy to revisit those 3 tips at the end of the book. Sue is back with us. Sue, let's see if we got some audio this time. Sue. Oh, no. Good effort there. You dropped off. You came back on. We're going to have fun with that. We got 3 people following us online live. So let me see what's here. Going to reboot. Oh, that's you. Those are your comments. Reboot and come back in. Now more people are joining. So here, just to reset, my co-author Sue is having technical difficulties with audio. Maybe, by the way, did you know what's going on in the United States? There's no planes in the air in the United States right now. There's like banks. I haven't read into it. I've been busy this morning, but I'm just carrying glimpses. Like everything's shut down there's like some grid problem or technical problem or IT problem. I'll figure out what's going on a little bit later on, but everything's working for my internet and everything's working for the stream. So let's get into what we're here to get into and see how it rolls. So the 5 categories in our book, the one that we're working through this year, and by the way, let me get some banners going. Welcome to Get a Klu in 52. My co-author is Sue. I'm Jeff Klubeck, right? We may be joined by some others as we have in the past. But what we're talking about here is the 5 categories for this book. And we started in section 1 with playing the integrity game. And this is repurposed content also. I wrote a book in its entirety called The Integrity Game and introduced a 10-point model for personal and professional growth. And we're taking these 10 points and making them the very first section in this book. Play the integrity game, retrofit yourself, get your foundation, get your structure, get your reinforcements so that you can withstand pressure tests on your way to advancing your career through speaking or doing that one talk you want to give or building a practice around speaking, becoming a speaker. You don't want to build a mansion on top of quicksand. So the first 10 tips in this book is the foundation, the structure, the structural integrity for what you're going to do with speaking, right? So in that sense, this is for speakers and non-speakers alike. Same thing with section 2 in our book. Now that we've got the framework, the structure, etc., we want to now brand it. We want to make it unique to us, specific to us. So section 2, all 10 tips in section 2 are about bring out your brand, right? So what are your promises to the marketplace? What are your competitive advantages? What do you do better than everybody else that also does it? What do you do that nobody else does, right? How do you get rid of the jargon? How do you create slogan? How do you avoid the humiliation of being humble when it's time to market yourself and put yourself out there into the marketplace? So there's a lot of mindset and a lot of tactical strategies and tips that we gave in section 2, bring out your brand. So having played the integrity game and set our structural integrity and foundation, and then having decorated with what makes us unique in this marketplace by bringing out our brand, now we're ready to start writing speeches because we understand our messaging, we understand our promises to the marketplace, we understand our competitive advantages, we know how to look for jargon and replace it with slogan, we know how to appeal, on and on and on, break down our markets into segments and speak to their listening. We've got there. So we're ready to write a speech now. So section 3, which is where we're at, this is the second to last tip in section 3, is be fearless. And what we mean, Sue and I, what we mean by this is kind of what we talked about in tip number 2 in this section, which I can bring up right now. First of all, tip number 1 is it's not about you. Everything leading up to the speech is about you, right? But when you're on stage, everything about that speech is about the event, the organizer, the audience, etc. Okay, which includes you, but not all about you. So that's a mindset piece. The other mindset piece that we started off with in this section is the real fear of public speaking isn't when you're actually speaking. The real fear of public speaking is how am I going to prepare? What am I going to speak about? What am I going to say? What am I not going to say? What am I going to do with my hands? What should I wear? It's all that stuff, right? And so you have a disorganized or zero approach to preparing. And public speaking in that regard is no different than anything else in the world. The more you prepare, the better you're due. Right? It's all about that path, that quest, that process of getting to readiness, but people can't see it. People don't have a process for preparing, right? Some people, I'll get up there and wing it. Or, some people write it out word for word and think that they can read their speech to an audience and feel prepared. And we don't like any of that. So the following 8 tips, tips 23 through 30 in this section are 8 steps to fearless public speaking. Let's bring D on. Let's see if D, all right, drum roll, please. Sue, are you nervous? D's about to come online, and let's see if her audio is working. I don't want to be silly, but are you secretly crossing your fingers that her audio doesn't work either? And so it's not just you? No, I'm joking. I'm teasing. All right, let's bring her on board. D, how are you?
Hello, is my audio working?
I'm ready for you this, I started, there we go. D Davis, sustainability expert, emerging author and speaker. You're going to make some wonderful contributions. We're having fun today, as we always do every Friday. But one of the fun pieces, like a little pressure test, is Sue's audio isn't working. She can hear us, but we can't hear her. So because we have structural integrity, we can withstand that pressure test, and the show must go on. That's one of the unofficial definitions of being a professional, by the way. The show must go on. Professionals understand there's an audience waiting for what we have to deliver, and Sue's audio working or not, we're going to deliver. All right? So Sue, stay with us. Add via comment or gestures or however you're going to get it done. D, let's see. Is your audio working? Can we hear you, D?
Can you hear me? Does it work? Okay. Good.
No, I can't hear your audio.
So
there's a chance
you can hear me.
Then the problem's got to be me. So, okay, very cool. So this is what we're going to do then. Then how are we going to respond to this pressure test? There's a chance if you, D, can you hear Sue?
D, can you hear me?
I can.
You can hear Sue, but I can't hear either of you. All right, as always, problems with me. What has 2 thumbs and is the problem? Okay, so we're going to have fun with this. We're going to roll. The show must go on. And the good news is you guys can both hear me. And so what I'm going to assume is that everybody out there can hear all of us. I'm going to assume that. I'm going to keep my eyes on the comments to see if anybody chimes in. Yes, I can hear D, but not Sue. Or what are you talking about, Jeff? I can hear both of them. And Jeff, I want to hear more of them. And stop talking, or whatever the comments are. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to assume that everybody out there can hear you guys, okay, even though I can't. And when I ask you to speak, I'm going to be very deliberate about it, and I'm going to lean in and watch you non-verbally so that I can kind of imagine what you're saying so that I know when to chime in and not. We're just going to have fun with it. But I see a lot of eyeballs ticking up on social media, so let me reset. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Jovial Friday where we're reading another tip from another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for Speakers, which is another version of all these Get a Clue in 52 books that I have done. But this one's special. This one's different because of Sue's involvement, Sue's voice, Sue's ability to let this book capture the mentor-mentee relationship. So what we're hoping is you zoom in on these tips and get in there. And as you see where Sue's contributions are, again, Sue, I'm going to assume that everybody can hear you out there. So we're going to let you read, and I'm just going to be watching your mouth. And then I'll know it's my turn to talk, right? So as we're reading this, it's fun because we wrote the book in a coach-coachee, mentor-mentee kind of frame. And as we reread it, some things get lost or enhanced in the transfer. It's fun to go context to context. But now that we've talked about all of that, let me welcome you again to Get a Clue in 52. Sue is my co-author. I'm Jeff Klubeck, right? And the first section of this book was playing the integrity game, as I reviewed that earlier. The 10 tips for the integrity game are the first 10 tips of this book. Then we want to bring out our brand on top of that structural integrity we've created. Now we're ready to write a speech. So in reviewing these tips, right, and let me just do a preview real quick. Next section, 2 weeks from now, we start section 4, and that's where we go deep on the 5th step to fearless public speaking. So keep your ears open for it. I'm going to review it in just a second. The 5th step is so intense, so important, so detailed that we want to give a whole section to the forms, functions, the elements of step 5. In this section, step 3, we're cruising over it strategically. And then we're going to end, as I mentioned earlier in the session, with practice building, 12 tips on practice building. But going back to being fearless in a quick review, right? We started with 2 mindset tips. Number 1, it's not about you. When you're speaking, it's not about you. Everything up to that is, right? Why you're a speaker, what's your brand, what's your promise, what's your purpose in life, and how does speaking help? All of that's about you. But when you're in the moment on stage, it's all about the event and the audience and the impact, etc. It's about achieving that purpose. Another mindset tip that we added to section 3 is the real fear of public speaking is not knowing how to prepare, not having a process, not having a method, not having a strategy for preparing to speak. So on the extremes of that, there's one person that's going to wing it. Good luck. And then there's the other person that's going to write everything down word for word and just read everything word for word, and now I'm prepared, right? So they're clinging to you, right? Those are the extremes. We want to play in the middle, right? We want to give a structured, systematic, stepwise approach to preparing to speak. And we're not preparing to read word for word. We're not preparing to speak for memorization. We're preparing to be fearless, which means conversational, which means trusting ourselves to be ourselves. Very much like I am today, right? I'm rolling with the punches and I can go left to right, up and down, zig and zag. I've got a framework. I've got something that I know I want to communicate, but I have to be available. I want my mind open to the audience, open to the scene situation, so I can adapt, so I can respond to pressure tests or unexpected occurrences or audience interaction or new ideas that come to my mind in the moment that might be better than what I wrote when I was drafting my outline. I want to be available to be myself conversationally. So the 8 steps to fearless public speaking summarize as follows, and we'll get to where we are today. So here we go. First of all, we're going to declare purpose again. Why do I say again? Because we did for step 1 in the integrity game. The very first tip of the book was declare your purpose. That's key to your life as a whole. It's easier when we're doing public speaking, right? Entertain, inform, or persuade. But what's important about that easy decision is that it helps every other decision that you make in preparation easier because you tether it back to the original purpose. There's a gazillion choices you have to make, right? There's a gazillion things you could do in any given speech, but most of them aren't going to be the right thing to do because they don't help you achieve that purpose. So that's a great filtering mechanism for what do I say, what stories do I add, what content do I give, etc. Well, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And that will help you, right, get clear and calibrated on content. Okay. Next, once you know your purpose, you want to select a topic, but you don't want to stop there because, the name of the topic is about your subject matter expertise, but the title, naming your topic, is about what's going to get the audience to come and see it. So you want to be a little bit sexy or mysterious or emotional in the name of your topic. We can go further on strategies there. And I love helping other people with this. But what's funny is the same way a surgeon doesn't operate on themselves. Often I need help with this myself when it comes to my own stuff. Okay, here we go. Now, once we've got our topic, we can't say everything there is to say about it. So we got to break it down into 3 main points. So tip number 25 was talking about organizational patterns. Okay, what are ways that we can organize our thoughts in a logical relationship so we're clear on our main points and we're not worried about what we're not going to say as long as we're really good about what we have chosen to say. And we use same strategies to develop our subpoints: depth, support, and substance. We want depth support, and substance in our speech. So main points supported with subpoints, right? And so we talk about forms of evidence in tip number 26, which is step 4 in the fearless public speaking process. Facts, examples or stories or anecdotes, statistics, testimonials, demonstrations or comparisons, right? This is the forms of evidence that give depth and support and substance to our main points. With that in mind, I got my purpose, I got my topic, I got my main points, got my subpoints. Now I'm ready to get into the 5th step. So tip number 27 is the 5th step to fearless public speaking. This is the step that we talked about the strategy for here in section 3. But 2 weeks from now, we're going to break the whole step down into like 9 or 10 tips in and of itself. So right now, the strategy is to outline. And strategically, what I mean by that is don't write paragraph, don't write prose. Outline, line items. Roman numeral 1, subordinate A, subordinate 1, subordinate sub A. Get everything in line item form, line items, draft, construct, build your speech in single, simple, clear sentences. One sentence per subordinating point in outline format. We want to outline the speech, not write it. We want to construct the speech, not draft it, right? We don't want it to be linear. We want it to be a collection of sentences that we put in the right order based on the objectives we want to achieve, etc., based on the main points that we organized. So I'm overviewing now, but I'm tempted to go deep on all of these tips because I live and breathe this, and I'm so confident that this will get you past fearless into conversational, and then you could build a career as a speaker or advance your career with public speaking if you say yes to public speaking opportunities that you were previously saying no to because you didn't know how to prepare. Okay, so after step 6, we've outlined our speech, the first draft, if you will, the first outline. We've got it put together, and this is what we talked about last week. Tip number 28, step 6 in the process is to measure the time. We want to actually now verbalize and get this speech out loud. We want to move our mouth and hear the sounds. It's so much easier to read something word for word, or it takes by comparison, much less time to read something in our head word for word than the real time that it takes to really announce the words, right? And again, remember, we don't want you to read your draft outline out loud because every single word that you wrote in that outline is exactly every single word that you'll say in your speech. What we want to do is get a sense. We never want to be overcommitted to the word for word of it. We want to get away from manuscript style or memorization style delivery, but we want to get a feel for how much time we've got, right? If I've got 45 minutes to speak, I want 30 minutes with the content, 15 minutes with the Q&A. The integrity game keynote, I know how to take that down to 10 minutes. I know how to take it up to 45 or 90. I want to know what's the amount of time that I've got, but I've practiced and delivered the integrity game keynote so many ways that I can do that. When we're building something from scratch, delivering it the first time, if we don't measure the timing of the content, and I don't know, any out there have ever had the experience where you're planning something and all the ideas come into your head and it all makes sense, and then real time does not allow for everything that had come into your head that makes sense. Real time. This happens to me a lot. I think about everything. I see it all and I see it in a heartbeat. But it takes much longer real time to communicate it all. So we need rings around the Saturn, and actually standing up, vocalizing, and measuring the timing is going to get us back to the computer to look and figure out where we need to take stuff out, or back to the computer and look for the spot where we can add stuff when and if we need to. And then that process further burns the groove in our brain of what our speech is all about, what we're trying to achieve in the intro, what we're trying to achieve in first main point, what we're trying to achieve in second main point, third main point, what on and on. So that takes us to where we are today. I'm going to take a deep breath and let's go ahead and test this now. Dee is still with us, but it looks like she went to audio only. Let me first introduce you, Sue. I'm going to say, hey, do you have anything to say? Let's assume that everybody out there can hear you. Welcome to Get a Klu in 52. Even though I can't hear you, let's assume everybody else can. And what have you got to say so far? I'm going to look for comments. I'm going to look for your lips moving. And when they stop or wave your hand, let me know that you're done and I'll pick it back up again. I'll do the best I can here.
Yeah, no worries. So I've added some comments into the feed. I've talked about, I love the concept of building a speech rather than just writing it. And the tips that we've talked about to date really enhance that. And that was there, and then before that, I was commenting on that we want our, when we were talking about our topic, but then it's our title. We want that to be attention getting so that we draw people in, and there's some of the key things that I want to pick up just for the moment. And Dee, have you got any comments that you want to add right now, or shall we keep going and I hand back to Jeff?
I can hear you loud and clear, just confirmation. But no, I don't have any other comments right now.
Okay. So
Is that my cue? Okay, all right, here we go. I don't know. This is like one of the wackiest things. I'm having fun. I'm glad, by the way, that we set the tone on Fridays to be jovial, to be conversational, to be silly. It makes what our adjustments are to the audio issues today easier, right? And then, of course, that's a brand promise to the marketplace that we're going to be jovial, we're going to be silly. I always put in the promotions when I'm building the events to post out on social media. Join us for jovial, and I put it in all caps. Jovial Q&A, right? Sometimes the jovial is before we even get into the tip reading, but I think we're ready to rock and roll. Yeah. All right. So let me go back to banners, and let me go ahead and put up the banner for today's tip is create your visuals. So again, here we go. So funny. I feel like it's like, have you ever had the experience of like going to a hotel room and you wake up like in the middle of the night and it's like kind of pitch black and like you're not really sure where you are. And so you kind of feel for the doorknob. You can't see anything yet, but you're kind of like walking forward, and you before you take a step, you're kind of moving your leg back and forth on the ground to make sure you don't trip on anything. And can't really. I kind of feel like we're doing that today. Like I know the doorknob's there. I'm going to reach for it. I can't really see it, but okay. All right, here we go, you guys. Thanks for laughing. All right, tip number 29. Sue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to read the last paragraph of tip 28. Then I'm going to lean in and look for your mouth moving so you get us started with tip number 29. And when I see your lips start moving, I'll go ahead, all right? So at the end, tip number 28 recap. The sixth step for fearless speech prep is to measure the time it takes to say it out loud, what you drafted in your outline. Hear how you sound. Measure the time it takes. Make the necessary edits and adjustments until you feel you got it. And it's time to move on to step number 7, creating your visuals.
So when preparing for a speech, I find there are different schools of thought on using visuals. Some say don't use any. Some say use pictures. I certainly don't want to be guilty of death by PowerPoint. As my speaking coach, what do you suggest?
Oh, well, now this is so funny. All right. Well, thanks for asking me what I would suggest, Sue. Let me read word for word what I would suggest. Here we go. This was a little easier because even though I couldn't hear you, I could see what you're supposed to say. Well, that's kind of cool. All right. Now you will take the time to create your note cards, visual aids, or PowerPoint. If you're not familiar with this concept already, let me reiterate. You do not want to read a manuscript or memorize your speech directly from a document. The goal of this entire process is to get you fearless, to be conversational with the audience. Your audience wants you to connect and interact with them, not a piece of paper, slide deck, or teleprompter. With that said, it's a good idea to have something to look at to keep you on track. Not to read word for word from, but to keep you on track. A PowerPoint can be very helpful, as can physical props. If you ever lose your place or forget something, it's nice to have a PowerPoint to reference or a model to hold up. As much of these are for the audience's entertainment or clarification, they can also be helpful for you as a speaker. They can also help you as a speaker keep on track, much like a roadmap telling your story. What you do not want to do is read directly, word for word from your slides. In other words, don't get trapped into what Sue refers to as death by PowerPoint quote type of situation. Have you ever been in a presentation where the speaker reads directly off the slide and literally turns their back to you? I've seen it. Do not be that person where you turn your back to your audience to read off of your slides and then it's uncomfortable just as I think of it. Let me continue word for word here. Good visuals can push you along or pull you back on track while maintaining a professional calm. With well-crafted visuals, you should be feeling confident that you can weather the worst of storms while giving your presentation. Beyond helping yourself with icons or prompts that remind you of everything you've internalized from your outline, your visuals are there to perform one or more of the following 4 functions for your audience. So this, I'm slowing down here on purpose because I think what I'm about to say right now is the cat's meow for this tip. 4 functions. We put the fun back into function, okay, on a Jovial Friday. But and let me just say it conversationally instead of word for word. This is what I want to make sure you get through. If your visual aid is not performing one of the following 4 functions, get rid of it. Am I clear about that? If you can't argue and buy your own argument with yourself that this visual aid is performing one of the following 4, then it's a liability rather than a bonus. So I'll go back to word for word. Here we go. Function number 1, simplify complex information. Graphs and charts are wonderful for making detailed statistics or information of magnitude, trends, or size more digestible. So the graph, the pie chart, right, on and on. So simplifying complex information. Have you guys ever seen that when somebody says, well, 32% of the 679 subject interviewed said that there'd be a 51% chance that there's no way. Anyway, like what? Give me a graph. Give me a chart. Show me, right? Visual. Okay. Number 2, emphasize a point. Quote, I don't know if this is really a word, but if so, I'll take credit for making it up. Ready? Emotionalize your words with images your audience will be able to recall well after your speech has concluded. So to emphasize, to create memory, to create roots, to go deeper, to create stickiness. So sometimes an image, there's no words at all. There's just an image and it gives us an emotional feeling. And that's something that we'll remember down the road, even if we lose this word or lose that word of somebody's speech, right? So number 1, simplify complex information. Is my visual right now simplifying information for my audience, making what I'm saying easier to understand through this visual? Or number 2, am I emotionalizing what I'm saying with an image, which is worth 1,000 words? And some of those words are emotional, okay? Right? And then, all right, number 3, peak, P-I-Q-U-E, peak. To stoke, to enliven, to peak, not P-E-E-K, right? But P-I-Q-U-E. Peak interest. Especially in today's day and age of deteriorated attention span, a well-timed visual can hold or restore the attention of your audience. So sometimes it's just an attention-gaining mechanism. Sometimes it's just, hey, we're done with point 1, we're moving on to point 2, which moves us into the 4th function, right? And these aren't mutually exclusive. Any one visual can perform more than one of these functions, so they're not mutually exclusive. Okay. Even better are the visuals that perform all 4 of the functions, right? So that's possible, but make sure that your visuals are performing at least one of these functions. So 4th is keep the audience on track. As we will see in the next section when we get back to and down with the 5th step, which is outlining, there are natural slides we can create that are consistent with the main points of our speech. We'll preview in our introduction. The wonderful thing here is the reminder that our visuals can keep both speaker and audience on track. Okay. Now, finishing out my word for word portion here, the trick is to use these visuals as icons, something that conveys a deeper value, which you then have to draw out. Icons represent, not explain, but they represent. I'm sorry, let me read that again word for word. Icons represent, not explain, and that is exactly what you want to do with a visual. You must be, I don't know if this is Klubi snack form. Yeah, there you go. All right. You must be smarter than your PowerPoint, or it will outshine you as the speaker. Ultimately, you want to put protection on hand in the event that you lose your place because any distraction from the outside may interrupt your flow. Otherwise, if your visual aid is not performing one of the 4 audience-centered functions above that we just read, chances are you're better off without it. Above all, never let the visual aid replace you as the speaker. Tip number 29, recap. The 7th step to fearless preparation is to confidently craft strategic visuals to help you deliver what you have outlined conversationally while keeping your audience on track and engaged with your content. There we go. There's the tip word for word. I'm going to open it up to you guys again. I'll just watch you dialogue a little bit, and maybe one of these or SOS or message in a bottle. Let me know when it's my turn to chime in. I don't know. Maybe I should get my phone and see if I should maybe listen in to what you guys are saying if it comes through my feed. I can try that. Let's see. I'm going to mute for now. Let you guys carry the conversation for a little bit, and you guys share what your impressions are of what we read. Sue, you lead this part with D, and I'll mute, and I'll see if I can drop this out and put another headphone in to listen in on you. Let's see. But the show goes on. Tip number 29.
Oh, very good. Very good. Dee, interested. Have you had experiences of both where you've seen really good visuals and what caught your attention, and ones that have just been really bad and you've switched off as when you're in the audience? Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
Oh, absolutely. I actually took an online course. The most recent one I can think of, I took an online course, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. And the person was very knowledgeable speaker, but their PowerPoint had sentence after sentence after sentence. And a lot of it was very technical, things. So, and a lot of acronyms that they didn't explain. And the person was talking really, really fast. So you're like, wait, what? And, so kind of a combination of a lot of things we've already talked about, going too fast, using jargon, and just the PowerPoint was just, there were no photos or anything like that. It was all words and lots of them. So it was very hard to stay engaged as a audience member, or in this case, a student, because the person just, and my first thought was they've never taken a class that told them not to do that, I guess. I feel like that's something everyone knows, but maybe not. So yeah, and I've definitely had the opposite experience where it's so fluffy, and there's so much going on the PowerPoints that it's distracting. And you're like, is that even relevant? A lot of people will do, and this is a very common thing now, it's a slideshow of their pets, basically, while they're talking. It has nothing to do with anything. And, you're kind of like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah, Jeff, we can actually hear you.
Yeah, guess what? I can hear you now too, that I've got one of my ear pods in this ear. And I think my computer is still connected to these instead of my wired, even though I'm plugged in. So, anyway, I'm in real time now. Obviously, the problem was me. Okay, so there you go. But hey, the show must go on. We rolled with the punches. We withstood the pressure test, and now we're back in real time with each other. Yeah. So carry on, you guys. I'm ready to chime in with some good stuff, but I love listening to you guys dialogue around this. You were mentioning value that you got from the tip and experiences that you've had where what I'm saying is absolutely true. And what else? What else do you guys have to share around tip number 29, which is create your visuals. Make sure that you've got an argument that they perform one of the 4 audience-centered functions, but also pay attention to how they keep you on track too, right? And how they can keep you grounded and centered and confident. What else do you guys have to say before I get into some stuff that I'd like to share?
Yeah. I can so relate to that slide that comes up. There's just words, sentences, and you're like, what's the point in having that? Is there a really good one that you can remember?
Oh, absolutely. I think the best ones are a combination of maybe a few words and a very few words, and some visuals, some graphics that are relevant to whatever it is that you're speaking about at that particular moment. And personally, that's how I like to use PowerPoint, is to keep me on track and provide some visual information to keep the audience on the same track as I am. But I guess one of the things that I always wonder is, I think I took a class a zillion years ago that said something like never put more than 4 bullets or something like that, 3 to 4 bullets on a single PowerPoint.
Right.
Sometimes I wonder if that's not even too much. I don't know if you have any feedback there.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll hand back to you, Jeff, in a minute, but I agree. I wonder if sometimes, even if that's too much, but I think it might depend on the context. But I've got in my mind, picturing in my mind, watching some TED Talks, and where it's a fairly short window of time, people are really trying to hold that attention of the audience. And some of the ones I've noticed, the slide has gone up and it's just one word. A black screen, one word. And they've gone through maybe 3 or 4 in the time that they've been speaking. The other one that I noticed that has been good is where they've been talking about a topic and they use images of themselves in whatever context it is that they're talking to. And again, they might only go through 3 or 4 slides. What my thinking is in that too is, and I'd be interested, Jeff, to hear what you think. If you're going to use slides, you want to use enough, but not too many or too little, because I think the reverse, if there's too little, you start to lose your audience because there's not enough change. It's like stuck. You've gone on in what you're talking about, but your visual is stuck in the wrong place. So I think it's that relationship, I suppose, is really important.
Well, here's the thing. In the classroom, when I'm coaching my students, right? I'm a professor at San Diego State, but when I literally am a coach more so than a professor, right? In getting them ready to prepare their speeches. When it comes to visual aids, I encourage them to avoid this thing where they've put up a slide and it's done what it's supposed to do, right? It's got a function, but they haven't done what they need to do as a speaker. So like, here's the frame. Ready? Watch. You like they go from not being able to see the visual to being able to see the visual. It performs one of these 4 functions, and once it has performed one of those functions, now it needs to go unseen again to return the audience's attention back to you as a speaker. Does that make sense? So sometimes often what I encourage my students to do is put a slide and then put a placeholder, like put a black slide, like just blank. So they do. And then I get them to practice, like, hey, everybody, as you'll see here, this is boom, boom, boom. And so they facilitate the performance of the function. And once they're done, like, I want to introduce my slide, bring my audience's attention to it, work through it so that it performs its function, and then get rid of it to get the audience's attention back on me. So that's basic, right? To just help them get stepwise and like they're clicking along with their. And I'm one of the only instructors, at San Diego State, I think, that provides a clicker for my students. Most students have to stand behind a computer and advance the PowerPoint by clicking the keyboard. I don't like that either, right? I don't like the podium in between me and the audience and so forth, right? But so that's one thing. I think that's addressing your point. You don't want a visual up for a point that I made 6 minutes ago when I'm 6 minutes down the road and they're still looking at this point, wondering if what I'm saying now is still connected to this other thing or it's right. Where are they at? We don't want the audience to lose where we are. So another way is what I like to do is every single point I want to make, I have a new slide for every point. But very often, and I'm about to show an example, sometimes back D, like 4 bullet points will take. I'm going to show an example for us to work through, and you guys can give me your feedback on the slide, right? Or on the PowerPoint deck, right? But let's say I've got 2 minutes or 3 minutes worth of speaking to do around a particular point, right? I'll have a bullet point with a half sentence or a fragment sentence, or it won't be a full and complete sentence. It'll be right. And for me, it's the prompt. When I see that, boom, it reminds me of what I want to do, and then I just do it. Does that make conversationally based on what's going on in the room. And then, all right, once I feel that I've met that objective that point represents, then I'll click. And then the next point will come up. So now people can still see the last point that was there, and they can see the point. So you've seen this, Sue, where I progress. Does that make sense? Very often, let's say I've got 10 points. Then I want you hear see where this is going to. Let's say I've got, I don't know, let's just 10. Let's say I've got a 10-point model I want to introduce, right? Okay. What I'll do is I'll create the slide that has all 10 points. And then I'll cut and paste, and I'll eliminate the 10th point. Cut and paste and eliminate the 8th point. Cut and paste and eliminate the 7th point. Until I get all the way up to a blank slide. And then I just go forward, pop, 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 forward, 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 forward. And then the points emerge. And so now the audience can see where I am, where they are, right? So whatever, you know what I'm saying? Have you ever been in one of those, hey, a speaker will say the 7 steps to this, or the 5 things that you want to pay attention to, or here are the 10 things. And you're taking your notes, but the speaker's going. And then you talk to the person next to you, wait, are they on 5 or 6? And you start looking at their notes, and you're wondering, and you don't know whether you should bother somebody, and you're looking up, and the visual is off, and you don't know where they are. And then you start saying, I lost them. I don't know where to check them. I'm missing something. And all that self-talk actually disconnects you from the speaker, which, by the way, if the goal is to sell, then it's effective. Some speakers do it on purpose, where they say, let me give you the 7 things. And they go, number 2 is, and they say, all right, and number 4 is, and then people are going, what's number 3? So sometimes people will skip. So then somebody says, hey, you skipped number 3. And they say, oh, that's okay. We get all of this in the back of the room. Go to the back of the room and buy the $1,000 product. It's all there. Right. So there's other techniques when you get into mastery level stuff, and some of them are ethical and some aren't, and on and on. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about visual aids, right? What I am talking about here is do not do anything that disconnects your audience from what you're doing, unless, don't worry, everything I'm saying is recorded for you in the back of the room in our product. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're building in that, hey, this is recording, just send an email to, and we'll send you the recording. Hey, there's video recorders. Don't worry about taking every word. They're recording. You'll get a copy of this, right? If you know you're giving them access later on, right? So all of these context clues and all these context elements are worth considering when you're making your decisions. But let me ask for some comments from you guys before I go into an example I want to show. Let's take a look at it. Anything else before we look at a specific? Oh, by the way, you're not. I'm not
question. Yeah, my question is, I think what you're referring to is when you're using slides and you've got either text or icon type images. What are your thoughts around where you've actually got a slide is just say a full photo, and you're using maybe is there a little bit of a trap there that you can leave a photo or up there for too long because it's been careful to make sure that it continues to fill one of these 4
So I'm hearing a lot there. Ask the question. Like, what's the real question you're asking here?
So we've talked about the text and sort of, I think, icon type images.
Yeah. But like when the whole screen is just a photo.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your question about that? Yeah. When the whole screen is a photo, what?
Is that harder, or what are some of the pitfalls in doing that when you're using that in a speech? Okay.
I like the question, but if I can invite you to ask a different question or a better question, because here's the answer to your question. Are you ready? It's the same. Nothing changes. Doesn't matter if it's a picture or if it's bullet points or it's text or it's a collection of images or whatever. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what the function is. Are you trying to simplify complex information, reinforce the message, keep your audience on track, or pique your interest, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a full picture, half picture, kind of picture, sort of picture. Is that really a picture? Handwritten, photograph? It doesn't matter. What stays the same no matter what the visual aid is, whether it's a full-blown picture or just a word or a keyword or 4 bullet points worth of keywords. Are you hear me? Right?
Yeah.
It does. Here's the answer to everything regarding visual aids. You ready? There's a point in time where your audience cannot see it. So pay attention and practice and rehearse bringing it into view for your audience taking your audience through the function it's performing and then getting rid of it so your audience comes back to you, whether it's a full picture or anything else. Doesn't matter if you're holding up something from me. Oh, look, I found something beneath the podium down here. And look, it's my AirPods, which means I can hear Sue and Dee in real time now. Now that this was the problem, can everybody understand? Am I simplifying complex information? You thought Jeff was being victimized by the global IT outsurge. No, it was just his own idiocy. Now that you've got a visual for what the real problem was, let me get rid of that and get back to what I'm sharing with you.
Yeah.
Do you understand? It doesn't matter what it is. Right. By the way, all of that was ad lib, right? But not really. You understand? Anyway, all right. Good comment. Dee, do you have anything before I go to an example?
Robin Williams would be proud.
You just paid me one of the highest compliments. That's I can go down a rabbit hole there. God, what a missing for us as a world. Like God, talk about gone too soon. All right. So let me go ahead and are you guys ready? Let me go ahead and bring up something that I want to share. Share screen. Let's go here. And we're going to go with entire screen. Now we're going to go with window. Okay. We're going to go with window and we're going to go with Adobe, but I may have to stop and start again. So can you see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
You guys can see it? Okay, very good. So look, this has got 4 words, an icon, and a third of a page of an image, right? But this isn't, okay. Hey, everybody, this is where we're at playing. Let's go through this a little bit. And now, hello, I am, right? And so this is easy. I've got this memorized. I don't need to read that. I can have that up behind me and I can say it. I do have this memorized. I believe soft skills make strong leaders, teams, and orgs. That's not hard to memorize, and I can say it a bunch of different ways, etc. So not bad, right? I'm Jeff. You can learn more. And I even say, hey, Forbes did a great interview of me when Forbes Coaches Council, right? A couple of years ago before the integrity game was really mature, but it talks about my methodology, my approach to coaching and leadership and everything I do. So if you want to learn more about me, you could Google Klubeck and Forbes, but let me give you a quick overview right now. So now what do I have here? So these 3 images, they're attention gaining. And now I can, these become prompts for me to talk about enrollment or engagement, prompts for me to talk about motivation, prompts for me to talk about accountability. This is not shown in a way where I have to read word for word, right? I purposely just have keywords. Do you guys see that? Yeah? And so when playing and now I get to orient my audience, keeping my audience on track. Remember a couple slides ago, I said we're going to play the integrity game, right? So now a couple slides later, the integrity game lives in the land of accountability. And now I can just be my conversational self, especially online, how I get to highlight, when I get to use my cursor and then draw my audience's attention where I want it to be. Let's go deeper on enrollment or engagement. One thing I need to do is evaluate. Who are you? I need to take the time to really get to know you. But more than that, I need to know what you want. If I take the time to know who you are and what you want, I might get you enrolled in my leadership and my coaching. I might get you engaged in your job. Do you guys see how these are just keywords now that let the audience know what I'm talking about, but allow me to elaborate conversationally without reading anything word for word? Yeah? Now, I don't have to memorize 35,000 words of a speech. If I know that I'm talking about enrollment now, I talk about it because I'm the expert. I'm talking about motivation now. I only need 2 prompts to talk about motivation. And then when I get to accountability, as much as I have to say about it, I know that this sets me up to talk about the continuum between transactional accountability, which is self-management, getting into our calendars, and 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10, 10 to managing our word, managing our micro commitments that we make to self and others. But the integrity game is more transformational. So now what I get to do is when I introduce the integrity game, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to blow it up. Now everybody knows where we're at. You see that? Now I've made this bigger, more visible. Now people know, hey, we're going deeper on the integrity game now, but people know how we got here, right? And so this becomes one of these slides where, watch, boom, how many of you believe you have integrity? ... That reminds me, I don't even have to put the rest of it there. All I need to see is how many. And I know that I'm going to ask how many of you believe you have integrity, and now I'm going to wait, and I'm going to interact with the audience, and all of them are going to have their hands up, and I'm going to tell them, repeat after me, I solemnly swear not to shoot the messenger, and they're going to laugh. And I'm going to say, hang on, I don't want to offend you and suggest you have no integrity. So I know that the next thing I want to do in my keynote is get audience interaction around what is integrity? What are we talking about? when we talk about integrity. So this is capitalized on purpose. There's 3 question marks here on purpose, right? And they're attention getting, and it may like pique the interest of the audience. But now, what is it? Now I'm not gonna move on to my next slide until I've gotten the 2 answers that I know I always get, right? Be your word and do the right thing when nobody's watching, which is good, but not enough. So I make the points that those are good. I make the point that they're not enough. And then I ask, how many of you want to hear my 10-point model? And everybody raises their hand. And hang on, since I've got so much attention, let me make one more point. That just like today in my session, a building, a bridge, or a tunnel has structural integrity if it keeps doing what it's supposed to do, if the show goes on, despite the pressure tests of not having your audio working or believing your audio doesn't working when really it's user error and you're the one that's not working. But bottom line is a building, bridge, or tunnel will collapse under pressure tests without structural integrity. People, oh yeah, so I say human beings and teams and organizations are no different. So I'm still into my thought leadership portion. I'm still trying to expand and deepen my audience's understanding of the word of the use of the word integrity, and I'm trying to hold up a mirror in the most jovial Trojan horse way I can, because ultimately I want to make it fun and easy to look within. So now I'm introducing a metaphor, and I'm getting ready to bring in this visual. The tennis shoe, the laces. What are the laces doing? They're integrating left and right side. The laces don't tie the shoe. We tie the laces. What the laces are doing are integrating left and right, bringing those 2 sides closer together. So now I get to do what? How many of you want to hear my 10-point model? And they all say, yeah. And so now, boom. Now this is a visual. It's just an icon, and this deepens. This shoelace image is what people are going to remember down the road, right? So now I get to do what? Bring in text. Now, some people would argue, especially depending on the size of the room, and this is the 10-point model. These are the 10 tips that we read in section 1 of our book this year. But now I've got it down into one word, right? As close as I can to one word each tip, right? And then I do have some prompts here, and people are going to lean in and squint their eyes and try to write it out word for word. You know what I'm saying? But the idea is I created the slide, and I just eliminate. And so now people, what is this doing? So just this slide is attention gating or piquing interest or reinforcing the message about integration. And now this keeps the audience on track. So every time a new thing comes up, they know I'm not talking about gifts anymore. I'm talking about potential now. And they know that I'm not talking about what goes here because it's not there yet. Hey, if somebody's saying, what's the 4th plane on your model? Thank you for asking. It's goals. Oh, can you go back a second? Sure. Hey, hang on. I have a question about purpose. Okay, let's go back to purpose. Are you ready to move forward again? Anybody? Do you see what I can do here?
Yeah.
And so for me, and I'm not perfect at this, but this is just everything I know about these things and everything I've taught over the years led me to create my own this way. But now let me take it a step further. Are you guys ready? The note taking. How many times have you been, Dee and Sue? How many times have you been at a seminar, a conference, at a presentation, whether it's in work or personal, whatever, and you're taking furious notes because you don't want to lose anything. You don't want to miss anything. How many times, right? Okay. Yeah. So now what we do is, are you ready? Wow. I created a fillable workbook, the Integrity Game workbook. So now look at what I've done. If I'm here for this is the somebody, especially for if I'm at this point of my presentation, why not prepare the learners in advance with a workbook where they could click here and they can take notes with me? You guys see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So create a fillable workbook. So anything I say down here, they can take notes, anything I say, and they can take their extra notes here. And then as I move on, and this is all I've got right here, right? This is all I wrote to myself, prompts, not full and complete sentences. But now the learner can come down here and click here and start taking their notes into the fillable workbook. So I like to give my learners a visual at their seats that connects and integrates with the visuals that they see from the stage and facilitate and guide them in their note taking. So as we can see, as you get moved to this page and I start revealing what the points in my model are, you can start, right here, you would put purpose. And right here, you would put gift. Right? And you would start taking notes on whatever it is that you hear me saying from stage. Or if you happen to get a recording of me delivering the Integrity Game keynote, you could watch it and take your note. Right? And so now we're creating a self-paced study. Does this make sense? And so this is an example of me populating my own workbook for my own group coaching program. So these right here, let me blow this up a little bit. As the speaker, right? How many of us have integrity? But when I did it in the keynote, it was how many of you believe you have integrity. So now I'm a learner in my own program, taking these notes on what me as the speaker said, right? And now look, the subject of this integrity game belongs to me. I'm the subject. It's time for me to ask these questions of myself and have answers to these questions. And then as I progress, what am I previewing, Sue? I'm previewing the integrity game 90-day challenge. So the 90-day challenge is anchored by these all-star interviews that I do with subject matter experts that help me go deeper on these topics, where we ended up getting recommended readings and takeaways from the live sessions and me doing my homework. And we went through it week by week by week by week by week. So guess what? As I integrate today's tip 29, creating your visuals, and show an example, I'm pivoting into shameless plug for the 90-day challenge. But before I go, thank you, Dee. I love you smiling there. Okay, let me show you one other thing. And now we adjust for context, right? So let me show you this. So now we're going into, instead of the PDF version, can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, so look, what you can see, this is the actual, now I'm in PowerPoint. So do you see where I would create this slide first and then just delete this, which would give me this slide. Then I would delete this, which would give me this slide. And I delete this, which would give me this slide, because I just want, every time I click, I want the new thing to come along. Every time I know as a speaker, I'm ready to move on, right? And so that's how it builds. And then, of course, same thing. Of course, the programming, this slide is programmed. You see that asterisk there? It's programmed in a way to give me the same deal. But now know your audience, know your audience. So when I'm making the point, and this is particularly for UCAM, the Ultimate Caribbean Adventure Mastermind, right? And this is in the Caribbean. This is for a wellness conference of mostly chiropractors, but other wellness professionals. So I'm delivering the Integrity Game keynote to enhance the credibility, the engagement, and the revenue for that event, for people to make investments with themselves to be better business owners rather than just wellness professionals, right? So I know that, hey, guess what? Shoelaces work for just about anybody, but know your audience. And then pop. When I added this slide right here to talk about the concept of integration and structural integrity, and if there's a kink in any hose or if there's a crack in any vertebrae, it leaves everything else susceptible. This lands with the audience. So now I'm performing that function of emphasizing the message. This is going to create an emotional reaction in that particular audience that this may not have. But why rest on one when I can use both? It's just a very simple adjustment, especially when you have a beautiful graphic design artist like Stella in the Philippines, who I always give props to, right? And we went with this one too, right? Just to to know your audience, right? And we're playing the integrity game, and the integrity game is a versatile 10-point personal professional growth framework that I'm committed to celebrating with the world. It shows up as these 10 points that you see show up as section 1. The first section in our book is playing the integrity game. And now what I want to do, if I can, just quickly let you know that the integrity game is kind of open for enrollment in beta form, meaning the integrity game is group coaching, and what you get in the group coaching ecosystem, right? First of all, you're going to get a copy of the integrity game book. You're going to get 2 sessions with an integrity game certified coach, myself or Sue or somebody like that, right? You're going to get access to 2 years worth of all-star interviews that I've done. I was giving you a peek on year 1. So this is the 3rd year that we're doing it. So I've got a brand new lineup of all-stars that I'll be interviewing this fall, starting in September. But right now we're still in July and we're in beta enrollment. Right now, the course is set for, it's $997, but just for you guys and anybody watching, this is really stealth. We're not promoting this. I'm going to put it in there. Ready? Here it is. Code. Oh, let me create a banner. Code equals 996TIG. We're going to eliminate this code starting August 1st. But what 996 does, it takes $996 off of the price. What does that mean? That means you can sign up for the 90-day challenge for $1 right now in July if you're committed to going through and helping us work out the kinks. So we went from Entreport to go high level. So there's a new funnel, new technical stuff. And who knows if somebody in our team has these instead. Anyway, yeah, right? So I'm going to put the code on, right? Here's 996, right? Code 996TIG. But let me screen share and show you guys what's really going to be happening there. So share screen. We're going to do this. We're going to go back to window. We're going to come to this window. and tell me if you guys can see the Integrity Game 90-Day Challenge. Do you guys see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, one of the things that I need to do, by the way, this video talking about the 90-Day Challenge is 2 years old. And the video I recorded last year didn't make it in the transfer. This is the old video. So one of the things I need to do is sit here at my computer and record a new intro video that will go right here on the landing page. Secondly, we've got, hey, is any of this keeping you up at night? Okay. So the Integrity Game will work for a lot of different people. But now here's what you'll get in the 90-Day Challenge. Starting in September, we're going to do 12 consecutive weekly Zooms with an overview of the Integrity Game, one dedicated to each of its 10 points, and then a conclusion where we'll celebrate and we'll look forward. In those sessions, I'm going to be interviewing all-stars, subject matter experts that'll help me go deeper on all of the 10 points than I could go alone. Anybody that signs up, everybody that signs up is going to get 2 complimentary coaching sessions with an Integrity Game certified coach. Yeah, that's a seed plant that we certify coaches. So if you want to be an Integrity Game certified coach, reach out to me and talk to me about that. Okay. You're going to be able to identify and optimize your own gifts and talents. So we're including in this year's version a set of behavioral assessments. So everybody that signs up for the 90-Day Challenge this year, they're going to get a disc and a motivators. They don't get the debrief with a live person because that takes time and scheduling and so forth. But it's relatively easy to send the link out so people can get their own set of behavioral assessments on the road to identifying their gifts, right? Dee, you just recently did behavioral assessments as a function of coming on board in our ecosystem, right? But we want to make sure that that's available for 90-Day Challenge participants as well. Next, you're going to get access to my little SMART goal setting course. It's tip number 4 in the 10-point model, but we're also going to give you access to a little mini e-course which talks about 5 barriers to setting goals and then takes you through step-by-step how to draft goals the smart way. I add an A and change an R in my model, so that's worth it just to see the changes that I made to it, to add more motivation, add more accountability, and a focus on behavioral change to the otherwise SMART goal setting method that more people are familiar with. We have a private Facebook group called The Arena, which is what we're calling our membership site as well. So whether you want to be in the Go High Level membership area on the internet or whether you want to be in a Facebook style deal, we're going to replicate them. The arena is already built and we're working on the membership site. But on Facebook, you're going to get access where we stream all the sessions. We put bonus content. I post recordings of these sessions that I'm doing with you, Sue, in there. We want to jam that with bonus content and make it a rich, robust environment for people to interact and share and all of that. So that comes with it. You'll definitely be able to improve self-management. But also one of the points on the model is service. We joined the 90-Day Challenge because we want a better life, career, business. We want to retrofit ourselves. We want structural integrity. We want more foundation. We want more resilience. We want ability to withstand pressure tests. We want to say empowered no to things that don't integrate with our answers, empowered yes to things that integrate. We want all of that, right, for us. But there's one point on the model where we ask everybody to consider who wins when you win, who wins when we win, when our cup spilleth over, who collects.
Yeah.
So we always want to keep our eye on the prize because everything that we want for ourselves is really all about being able to make a bigger difference for others, whether it's our kids, our spouse, our coworkers, our communities, our families, somebody out there that I've never met before that may be watching this, who knows, right? So we're going to focus on that and hold you accountable to being in service. And you can learn a lot about me and you can see testimonials from people all over the world and understand the brands that I've helped and associated with and all the different value pieces, stack after stack after stack after stack. This is a funnel. But when you get here, you guys, right? And just so I can go to step 2 to show you, when you get here, you enter in your information. This is where you put this code, right? This is where you put the code and you'll get I'm giving you $996, which is actually, I'm giving you what? $18,000 worth of perceived value for $1, right? And so that's where you would go and you would fill it out and you get access to all this stuff. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I want your feedback. I want to know, stop sharing. I want your feedback. I want to know if it's any good. I want to know, right? Oh, this isn't working, or this was confusing, or this took a while to get to me, or I had issues logging on, or when I got logged in on all right, but golly, can't you do a better design? It looked kind of boring. Can't you design? Whatever the feedback is, I'm willing to let you have access to all of that value for $1. If you give me feedback on all of the changes that we need to make to get it really restaurant quality by the time September 1st rolls around, because our first all-star interview is going to be September 4th this year. The first Wednesday of September will be the first all-star session. But otherwise, the 90-Day Challenge is an evergreen program. And so when you want to oops, hang on a second. What do I want to do here? I want to show you guys the link. That's what there it is. And let me edit this real quick and put the code in. So code equals 996 TIG. And there it is. So let me put this banner up. So if you go to the integritygame.com/join and then enter the code 996 TIG, you'll get everything I talked about, including the 2 comp sessions, the assessments, the access to the recordings, membership in the arena, access to the Facebook group, all the stuff. The free copy, PDF copy of the Integrity Game, all the stuff. It's really, actually, as I go through it all, Sue, it's kind of remarkable, right? Lots of value.
A lot there. There's a lot of
so
value.
You get all of that for $1 as long as you send us an email and say, this is what sucks, make all this better, please. Right? It's a pretty sweet deal, right? I think. And we'll be happy to see you in the sessions. We'll be happy to help you retrofit yourself. We'll be happy to get even more, even in an even better position to support you when you schedule your comp sessions, right? And so we're working on making sure all of this works right now. That's where we're headed. So the Integrity Game 90-day challenge, it's evergreen. If you find your way in, it works now. If you want to pay full price, go ahead. Right? But it started off 2 years ago. This is a $297 program when they did it for the first year. Last year, it was a $497 program. Yeah, guess what? This year, it's $997, and it's still stealing. Right? At $997, it's still a tremendous value with everything that we're pouring in there. But we'll give it to you for $1 if you give us feedback on how to make it better. There's things that we may not see. We're so close to it. There's so much technical stuff to deal with in the transfer from one system to another, and to the emails transfer. Are the campaigns still relevant? Do the landing pages still work? Do the thank you pages still work? How long after somebody registers does it take for them to get their login and password emailed from the system? What happens if they don't get it right away? Are we creating messaging? Hey, you will get your email within 30 minutes because have you ever registered for something, check your email, it's not there, you think it doesn't work, and you're emailing customer service that it doesn't work before the system has even been given a chance to work. I mean, all of these things, right? The messaging, the wording, we want feedback on all of it, and we're willing to give you the program for free. So I'll stop talking now and say, how do you feel about that, Sue? How does that sound to you? You get it for free anyway because you are an Integrity Game certified coach, and you've been in it. You know, you've been an all-star, right? You've been a participant, you've been an all-star, and now you're an Integrity Game certified coach. So what a journey for you, Sue. But what do you have to say about the 90-day challenge or your participation in it, your experience of having gone through it, now ready to support other people that are going through it? What do you got?
90-day challenge. It's just incredible value, and it's transforming. When you take the time to go through the model, answer the questions, work through it, and it's not a one-off. It's something that you come back to all the time because you want to refresh, you want to check in with yourself and update what you've got. Is it still relevant? Is it still on track for where you're headed?
Can I show something that emphasizes your point? Remember earlier when I was talking about the visuals that I create just to help people stay along? When I say create your visuals, it's not just what you're doing from stage, but creating visuals means what can you give your audience to help them follow along? And I was showing this workbook, right? So you can see the workbook now. Yeah. Right. Well, just for today's tip reading for you and I, the tip reading, I chose this version, right? But this is 2 years ago. So what you'll see, like, for example, and I'm being a little bit vulnerable here as I plaster this out. 90 days alcohol free by December 6th. I'll get elected to the PCA board of directors. I will publish Get A Klu in 52 for coaches by 12/22, right? Right? So guess what? Here it is. I did that. Anyway, my point is, these were my SMART goals, for Q4 of 2022. So obviously I can now, like you said, I can check in on it. It's not a one and done. Now all I need to do is update this and take out Q4 of 2022 and put in Q4 of 2024 or Q1 of 2025. So what do I want to achieve by April 1st of 2025? And so now I don't have, I can keep all of the nuggets that I got from that session, or I can watch last year's session, which had different experts. And you know what I'm saying? So now this becomes this document. This is what I update now. This is my roadmap. This is my structural integrity for my life and business. And so I just have to, I can add to my personal achievements that make sense that I want to have top of mind. I can update what are my proactive learning commitments. My learning commitments right here, I'm not committed to learning these things anymore. This was in order to get ready to teach these 2 classes at San Diego State. Well, what they offered me instead was OrgCom. So I had to learn something completely different. What am I teaching now? Public speaking. I don't have to learn anything. I don't have to. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't benefit from. But I don't have to learn anything new in order to teach public speaking. Oh, take that back. I have to learn how they teach it at San Diego State. I have to learn the 1 unit, 2 unit, large lecture, small sector. I have to learn Canvas and now the delivery mechanism. Right. So if anybody saw last year's version of my workbook, right, I just had the first one up as the example. But now this is the document. When I go and I update this, now I feel like I've retrofit. I've updated. I'm current. And I've brought into focus and law of attraction and manifestation and all the left of center things and the woo-woo things that people talk about. Law of attraction, visualization, vibration, manifest, make it happen. I'm doing all of that by playing the integrity game. I'm letting the world know what I want. And the world is, conspiring to help me, right? So it's amazing how many of these things I achieved shortly after. I mean, what did I wanted to do? Like, what's one of these goals is, I'll submit an application for lecturer by November 1st. Well, guess what? By November 15th, I had been hired.
Yes.
Forget the application. Like, I was so focused. I was so retrofitted. I was so stable. I was so resilient to distractions that I brought things into my life so much quicker. So I just wanted to get excited and elaborate on what you're saying. There's the evergreen nature. We run all-star sessions for 12 weeks in the fall, but we play the integrity game all year long.
So true. So true. And I love what you've done today of bringing the tip that we've talked about in terms of creating your visuals and really brought that to life as we've gone through the session and given us a very in the moment experience of what really good visuals can do to enhance what we're talking about.
I've made mistakes. One time I created a PowerPoint for Hug You Accountable, which I delivered in Orlando to 1,500 people, right? And the PowerPoint that I was creating looked really good on my screen.
Right.
But in that hall, right, in that big conference room with 1,500 people, and I didn't know the size of the monitors. I didn't know if there was one monitor behind me or one to the left and one to the right. And if there's 2 on each side, maybe they're smaller. So does that make sense? Like in an ideal situation, I would have loaded my PowerPoint on, gone to the back of the room and seen what it looked like the day before and then made adjustments and come back. So I remember after that talk, the talk was great. But people came up to me, Jeff, I couldn't see your slides. I couldn't see your slides. I couldn't see the slides, which ended up working for me because people would come up to me and tell me they couldn't see the slides, which gave me an opportunity to, make appointments with them or get their contact information to send them stuff or what have you. But I'm speaking now from a place of having made a lot of mistakes and seen a lot of mistakes in my classrooms and so forth. So here we are. Oh my God, can you believe it? 12/12. Whoa! Your drum roll, please. Last call. We've made it. Last call for comments, questions, riddles, jokes, limericks, haikus, or expressions of gratitude. And I'm grateful that I got my head out of my own butt and got into real live audio this time. Wasn't that funny?
Didn't even think to check with you and say, hey, is it your earbuds? Yeah.
It sure is. Look, anyway, we made it happen. Last call. This has been a robust session. My marketing team, I hope they cut up that last little segment when I screen shared and I went into a preview of what the 90-day challenge is. We can edit that out of this segment and make that a promo video in and of itself, marketing team, if you're paying attention. But what do you got, Sue?
Look, just heaps of value. And as I said just before, really enjoyed you actually pulling up some slides and walking through what it looks like to have engaging slides, be able to use them to support what you're talking to as a speaker.
Yeah, we got a little bit of sneak peek into what that output is, but also I hope I took you a little bit behind the scenes in my mindset when I'm thinking about when I'm creating them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and it's not just conceptual. When we read these tips, I always want to show people what I'm talking about. And I thought today's visuals were pretty good. And then, it was a little sneaky to transition that into like absolute blatant promotion of the 90-day challenge, but we are ready. We're ready to play the integrity game. And it's going to be fun. So guess what, Sue, in the fall, you and I are going to be online every Wednesday for all-star sessions and Friday for tip readings. plus all of the collaborations that we're doing offline with the clients that we're working with and so forth. So it's going to be a lot of fun working with you this fall, Sue.
Excellent. Sounds really, really good. Yeah.
Anything else for today?
Nothing else from me.
All right. So next week we'll get to tip number 30. Wow, what an interesting number, 30, which will close out section 3 and get us ready to go deep diving into our speech writing, where we break out the elements, forms, and functions of the 5th step to fearless public speaking. And then next week I'll give everybody, I think we've run our course today, but normally I'm like, hey, if you want to bring out your brand guide, give us your email, or hey, if you want 8 steps to fearless public speaking by itself, give us your email. But today I decided to shamelessly promote the 90-day challenge instead. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to Dee, who had to drop off for a call at the top of the hour there. Thanks to Sue always for everything, all the ways that you've shown up in my life as an audience member, when I was a content speaker back in 2017, to a client, to a collaborator, a colleague, a certified coach, a support system, a fan, a friend. I love all the ways that you show up in my life, Sue, and it's a treat to be here for you as well. Thank you for being my co-author on this project, and thank you for helping me deliver these streams every week in 2024.
Thank you, and thank you for all the gold nuggets that you continually bring to my world and my life. And I would actually just super quick was talking to someone last night, and I was talking about the event, the Authors Hour that we did in San Diego.
Did we do this? Did we do this? Go ahead.
Just another example of the absolute fun and enjoyment I've had of working with you.
My commitment to the value per se.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was seeing if I could do this super, super quick because I was so proud of it. Did we do it last week? Did I screen share and bring up pictures of the event?
No.
I didn't do that. I wonder, I'm seeing if I can get to it quickly. If not, I'll abandon or abort. But I should have these relatively handy. Yeah. Let's do this. All right, you ready? Let me present. Let me make sure I'm not messing anything up. Let me make sure I'm good time-wise. Hang on. Let me quick. Let me just do this really quickly and make sure I'm good. I am. All right. So here we go. We're going to share screen, and let's take people to the University Club for Authors Hour. Hey. All right. So there's the panel. Silly picture. I love this one. This one's my favorite. So that's Diane Forrester, Lisa Reed, and Sue. You were the panelists. And there's my daughter. All right, some of this is video form. I'm not going to play video. There's my lovely family, minus my son, who had to leave a little early. But there's a University Club member who, right, and this is the idea. The Authors Hour banner behind him has a QR code where people could scan and make a contribution to the Lamp of Learning. And in exchange for a suggested contribution of $25 per book, you could walk away with any of the author's books. And so he's got a nice handful there, including Vipul's book, Give Your Way to the Top. You see that? That's wonderful.
Yes.
And there we are. There's Authors Hour. It's cool. So and then it's getting a little bit darker now, so I'm going backwards in the evening. But when it was a little bit lighter out, there's you. You're a star now, Sue. Look at you autographing a copy for somebody. And look, I just love the look at. I'm so proud. There's my son Brody. He was loving the event. Wasn't he special? And then look at how good these pictures come out. I love that one right there. And this is great. The panel is great. And yet you have a contribution. And obviously I hired the photographer, so they focused on me quite a bit. But they did a good job getting pictures from other people as well. But this just gives you an idea of what the event was like. And we had light bites, and we had wine, and there was authors' copies, and there was good networking. And one of the things I loved about the event, Sue, was that I didn't ask a single question the entire time. That I facilitated and created an environment where all of these people were asking the questions. I didn't ask anything. All I did was facilitated other people's questions, right? And it was wonderful. The whole hour just went by in a heartbeat. We could have done another hour easily and nobody would have noticed. And it was just, I don't know. Do you have anything else to say? Like you were talking about this event. Make sure you share your pictures with people. It was just, everybody won. Everybody that attended won. And the University Club is going to commit to doing more of these. So I'm thrilled. So if anybody out there wants to be featured on an Authors Hour panel, then get a hold of me and we'll figure out if and how we can do that. There's a woman I've met recently named Ellie Shoja. She's incredible. And she is a celebrity ghostwriter and book coach. And she's got access to some celebrity authors. And we're talking about replicating Authors Hour up in LA, where she lives, maybe at a University Club affiliated business club, or maybe at a Chamber of Commerce or some other location. But the concept of Authors Hour has legs. It's a wonderful idea of, and look at and then the saxophone was playing with Vaughn, remember?
Yeah.
You know, it's just the smiles, the pictures, everything looks so good. Everybody was so happy. But the event itself has legs, whether it's only at the University Club or it can travel to other areas. All you need is a pretty good facilitator to bring out the brands of featured authors that can motivate people to show up to an evening networking event. And then even better if you have a fundraising component for a worthy cause. So I'm just in love with everything about Authors Hour. And the mood music was just put everything over the top. Vaughn was incredible. And yeah, I will. Really never mind. I'm not going to play it. But anyway, thank you for. I'm still glowing over the success of that event, and we did it all for you, Sue. You said, "Hey Jeff, I'm coming to town, and I'll come to San Diego, but not for like a cup of coffee and a muffin. Like, can we do an event?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me scratch my head. Let's see what I can do," and that's what we did.
Yeah, so it was fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right. Anything else in terms of last call? I didn't expect it to go this way, especially when I thought I had audio problems. But here we are. What a robust session. Last call for comments, questions, or anything for this week before we finish section 3 next week.
Nothing more from me today.
All right. Sue, thank you for everything. We'll see you next week. I'm sure we'll talk a couple times in between now and then, but definitely next week for sure for tip number 30.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Bye.